Broadcasting from Silicon Valley, California, this is Conversations with Jennylyn.
You are watching Conversations with Jennylyn, and today I have a wonderful, magnificent guest to share with you. And today we are in Brazil with Dr. Marcelo de Andrade. Thank you so much for coming for joining Conversations with Jennylyn.
Pleasure, Jennylyn.
So you are in Rio.
Yep. Based here.
Are you a practicing physician in Rio?
No, I have. I graduated in medicine, and I ended up diverting to the sustainability world when some 35 years ago. So I barely remember that the liver is on the right-hand side, isn't it?
That's too funny. So tell us about sustainability in Brazil right now and what part you're playing in that.
Well, Brazil is a big country and it has a lot of natural resources. It has 23%, I think, of the world's forests and a lot of other biodiversity and land. And presently, we've been asked to take better care of this assets, and the world is right. We need to really be very careful with it and preserve it, and obviously we need to develop ourselves, develop our economy. But there are technologies today, and there is the most of the money in the world today wants to have sustainable development. Yes, development, but a sustainable kind. And that's what I've been dedicated all my life for the last 35 years. That's why I left medicine, to dedicate my life to sustainable development. And I have.
How long did you spend in medicine?
6 years.
6 years. And are you enjoying what you're doing better than working in medicine, healing people?
100%, because healing people as a doctor, I can do one at a time. And I can benefit people to the millions with the foundation and investment vehicles that I've created, all to sustainability that offers a much better quality of life to people. So I'm much happier doing that than just one by one. It's important too, but I like that better.
See, and I am one who believes that you should do what you love to do because you do it your best and it doesn't feel like you're working. Would you say that is true of your sustainable work that you're doing right now?
100%. Absolutely.
So we hear in the news that Brazil has been hard hit by COVID-19. You want to share a little bit with us on what's happening now?
Absolutely. Brazil has been very hard hit. It's not as bad as it sounds, because most of the larger capitals have had a peak, and now they're really decelerating. Most of the hospitals they're shutting down their COVID aisles there. So there's a lot of beds and respirators. It's getting much better, the situation. Most of the people are respecting the mask, wearing the mask. I am. I'm inside my car, but as soon as I step out, I'll have my mask on. And and people are respecting distances. Not everybody, obviously. There's people that don't, but mostly it's escalating now in the interior of Brazil. Brazil is very large, so it took a long time for the disease to get into the interior. And the interior, it's beginning to really be ugly, and maybe it's just going to be the same cycle. It spikes and then comes back. I don't think it's as bad as it looks, but it's pretty bad. We need to be careful, very careful.
Do you know how many people you've lost in the country to date? By any chance, do you have access to those numbers?
I do, and I don't remember. They change obviously every day. And this morning I heard the fresh numbers. I don't remember anymore. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay. It's okay. So you feel like it's on the decline, is what you're saying?
It's on the decline in the big cities, but it's growing on the interior. So I don't know. I don't remember what the balance is. I heard this last week, and that's what I'm reporting to you. So the balance is beginning to tilt from big cities to the small to the interior. So big cities are growing down and interior is going up, but I don't remember exactly the proportionality. And obviously it's very flexible. Every day it changes.
That's surprising because, you know, in the bigger cities in most countries, that's where it was spread the most. And I've interviewed people who live in country areas and they say because it's wide open and they're not as close to each other, that they had less cases there. Why do you think it's spreading in your interior?
I think it's because a lot of people that came from the interior into the big cities looking for jobs and work and started living here. When there was a shutdown, a lot of people lost their jobs and a lot of people, you know, had to go in quarantine. So they went back home. So the big spikes happened on the big cities. And then everybody went to the interior, and then through the quarantine time and the time they migrated back and all, now it's spiking up. I think that's the phenomenon that's happening.
Got it. So are you on quarantine still in the cities or no?
It's beginning to flexibilize. So some businesses are allowed to open, like restaurants and other businesses like gyms and hairdressers and bars and all, but with a lot of restriction. They have to have 20% of capacity, 50% of capacity, depending on the business. They have to have distancing, hygiene protocols. Every open business have to have plenty of alcohol gel to distribute to people. Everybody needs to use a mask. Everyone, in whatever circumstances. So it's beginning to create flexibility. And I heard the private schools may come back on August 5th. And the public schools probably going to be a little longer because they're more crowded.
You know, in a lot of countries where they've allowed people back out, like you are doing now, like we are doing in the United States, people have concerns regarding resurgences. Because even though you have to be cautious, there's so many people who think because they've been allowed back out and the restraints have been removed, that it means everything is back to normal. And some people are not being careful. What concerns do you have for a resurgence in your country?
High. I mean, this whole migration to the interior is a kind of resurgence because
Right.
they already had the peak in the city, and now they're going back. They went back home, and now it's peaking up there. So it's a kind of resurgence. But if the flexibilization is too wide open and too fast in the big cities, it could be resurgence, definitely, because vaccines and mass immunization is not there yet. So it's still we're not there. We're not there yet.
I know, and based on what most people every now and then you hear, they found a vaccine, but most of the people that actually are experts in that field have told me we're not going to have a vaccine for 12 to 18 months. So, you know, we don't have it yet, so we all have to be super careful. I know that Brazil is a huge country. Your work that you are doing, is it affecting the entire country or only the city where you live?
No, we don't. We work mostly in interior, not in the rural areas, not in the cities.
Oh, okay.
I have a missionary, and a mercenary hats. I have two hats. The missionary is a non-profit, is a development agency that builds economies on the base of the pyramid in rural areas, mostly. Some cities, but mostly rural areas. And the for-profit hat is I created a private equity firm, which is the biggest in the world today that invests
Wow.
exclusively in sustainable assets. It's a private equity firm. I co-founded it with some Brits, with some Englishmen, and that's why I'm dedicated my life to sustainability from both sides. And the nonprofit, the Pro Natura, the development agency, it has been active in 63 countries in 35 years.
Wow.
So it's a global coverage, as well as Earth Capital, our financial company.
What are some of these sustainable businesses? Are you allowed to share them with me?
Sure. Well, for example, Pernatura works with it goes into an interior of sensitive areas with vulnerable populations, most of the times affected by large infrastructure investments like mining, like roads, ports, or hydro, and the impact of those large investments on an unprepared region, on a region that is vulnerable, and the population also vulnerable, is devastating every time. So we use the financial muscle. It's called the Shared Value Platform. It's a joint venture between Pernatura and the IFC. The IFC is the private arm of the World Bank. So
Okay.
we created this together. So we move into a region, use the financial muscle that the big infrastructure investment is deploying in the region, and we manage the process where we, with the bottom of the pyramid stakeholders, we define the appropriate value chains that will be good for them, and they already do, or they can be improved, or can be scaled up, or it's missing. And we make that happen. Business plans, we raise private capital to invest on those value chains, creating an economic anchor for the region. So that's what the foundation does. So it increases the quality of life of millions of people. That's what the foundation does.
So it's
And the
sort of like
for-profit, okay.
sorry, is it sort of like a VC type organization?
It's all kinds of assets, but it's low. It's smaller than VC because it goes for the bottom of the pyramid, but it grows at scale way larger than VC.
Wow.
That's the novelty. It's a new asset class, pretty much. We call it hyper impact.
That's great. So you are benefiting a lot of these people in those areas that normally don't have a leg to stand on their own financially.
That's the goal. Yeah. Well, financially and technically too, because there's a lot of capacity building. It's blended finance, so there's a lot of capacity building, de-risking, and all to become attractive to private capital. So it's a very complete, holistic, symbiotic, systemic approach. That's the word I was looking for. Thank you.
Yeah.
Systemic.
So you live in South America and the continent is massive. Are you planning to infiltrate other countries with this in the near future if you haven't done so already?
We have done our nonprofit, our development agents have done this in 63 countries, 63 in global, all over the world, Africa,
Okay.
Asia, Latam, and the shared value platform, which is this methodology in a much larger scale with IFC. We are beta testing it now in Peru, Brazil, Mozambique, and in Vermont, US.
This is great news. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Now, in Brazil, you speak Portuguese.
Yes.
And most of the South American countries speak Spanish, except for Guyana, who speak English. That's why I can speak to you now.
That's it.
It's the only language I speak. What plans do you have for Guyana?
Well, Guyana, we had an office there until recently, but because of our country director became a minister, so we had to kind of hold the office for a while. But I just heard that Guyana has a lot of big gas or oil. No, I'm saying Guyana have found recently some oil and some mining assets and gas. And this is the kind of thing the shared value platform helps with.
Okay.
So we probably, if we have the opportunity, we will love to work in Guyana and apply the shared value platform there.
I hope you will, because there's so much chaos happening there now. They had elections, I think, in February, and they still can't decide who the leader is. So it would be nice, at some point, because I think everything is sort of on hold there while they're trying to figure that out.
Well, let's see. Let's clear the scenario and see what unfolds, and then we would love to go.
how has your business been affected by COVID, if at all?
Oh, it's not.
It's not. It
It's
hasn't
not
been
at all.
affected.
No,
Okay.
no. Affected. Oh. I thought I said it's not been affected. No, affected. Yes, it has been affected. We have, for example, we have slowed down capital raising. We had to bring people back home, and it's been quite affected. Very much so. Oh yeah, sorry.
Because I was going to
Affected.
say yours is the only business that wasn't affected. Woohoo!
No. It was quite affected. Sorry, I confused the words.
So
I thought,
you're probably happy the government has opened up some things now so you could get the ball rolling again.
yes, very happy, but we need to be very careful. I'm very conservative in this way.
But
Maybe it's what's left. It's what left of the medical doctor in me.
you have to be, the good thing is you've got that training, so you can not only help yourself, but those close to you. Have you
Yeah, I
had
have.
any friends or relatives affected by this?
Yeah, several. A friend of mine, a very close friend, one of my best friends, he died from it.
Oh
He was
no.
already, pretty bad. He had cancer and had already, his health was very shot, but he didn't resist. He caught it and died,
I'm
unfortunately.
so sorry.
Yeah, that happens. Happened. Most people had somebody close that had this kind of issue.
So I've been doing this interview series since in April, and I've gone around the world and interviewed all types of people. I've done over 70 interviews, and most of the South American countries were not hard hit as Brazil.
No.
And I noticed specifically, I asked this because this is my personal belief, that if the people were given the BCG shot, they seemed as though they had some more resistance than people who haven't had it. There's been no proof. No doctor or scientist has said that. This is just Jennylyn's observation based on
Well, it could be.
my
People know very little.
right. So why do you think that you guys were so hard hit?
I think we took too long to react. Our reaction was not very fast, and our president was not taking this very seriously in the beginning, so we took a little longer than we should. I think that's what happened.
And I read somewhere that he was infected. Is that true? And
Yep,
it's better?
that's true.
And
That's
he's
true. He
better.
got
Okay. He
yeah,
recovered.
but he didn't have very symptomatic, very little affected. Very, he caught it, but it was did affect him very not very much.
So do you have children?
3.
You have 3 kids. So have they been doing distance learning? Is that how your education system is handling it, like most countries?
Yeah, they're grown up. I mean, the 2 girls are in France, doing they're doing post-grad school. One of them is doing a MBA, and the other one is doing international law, already post-grad. And the boy is finishing a double major in Berkeley University, but is now, because he's doing it remotely, he's working on an internship in Poland.
Oh,
They're all
great.
being very careful.
They're all gone.
Nobody home. Yeah, just my wife and I.
That's great. Well, it doesn't matter where you are. This is the one thing that's this pandemic that everybody in the world can relate. I was telling a friend a couple of days ago, something may happen in a country, but not in yours. And so you can have compassion, but a lot of times you are not exposed to it, except in this situation.
Yeah.
Everyone is getting a taste of this. What plans do you have for your company going forward now, since we have to reset the bar?
What? Sorry. What was good?
What plans do you have for your company now going forward in the COVID world?
Well, we will do a lot more remote things, meetings and all. It's either from the asset management or from the other side. And we believe sustainability is going to become even stronger than what it was already before COVID. Sustainability was finally catching up. Sustainability, the concept of sustainability is going to be 30 years old in 2022 because it's going to be Rio plus 30. And it was carved in Rio conference, the UN conference in Rio in 92. So it's really was catching up big time when COVID hit. And now I think it's accelerated exponentially and probably going to be good for business.
That's great. And what have you learned about you during this pandemic?
That I can't stay in the same place more than 2 days. I haven't stayed in the same place. My average, presence in one single geography has been maximum 2 days per place in average.
Does this mean you traveled a lot before?
For 25, 26 years, yeah.
So now you are feeling completely lost. Have you been on an airplane since it started?
Nope, and I'm loving it. My last trip was coming back from New York on March 11th evening, and that was it.
And are your airports open now, or you just can't travel? Are they open to overseas flights?
No, yeah, they're open. Yeah, we can travel, but there's no reason for traveling right now.
Okay.
Yeah, it's open. I
Yeah.
mean, some countries are closed, some countries are limited, but yeah, can travel. But it's not the time. It's nothing. It doesn't mean it's not necessary. Let's put it this way.
I think
For
a
the
lot
moment.
of people are learning that you can do business from home and you can have a conference call and you can Zoom like we are. When you think of the travel and what it takes to go from one place to the next that people have done over the years, I feel like the universe is trying to tell us there's a different way to do this.
Yes, you're absolutely right. It's exactly what's happening.
Sit down and figure it out, but you're not going to be going back and forth.
Absolutely. You are so right. That's it.
What kind of feedback, when you have conversations with your friends, what's the overwhelming thread you hear from everyone that's coming out of being locked down at home?
I want to get out. Everybody's kind of getting crazy. I'm very lucky because my wife and I, we live in Rio, but not in an apartment. We live up in the hills. Rio is there's a lot of hills in the city, and we live in the highest residential area. It's probably the highest house in the country in Rio, in the city, and it's the middle of the woods. It's the middle of the woods. I can see the ocean, I can see the mountains, and and I'm in the middle of the forest. So it's great. I can walk around. We have a vegetable garden. We have chickens and dogs, and so it's fun. We're not locked up. We're safe because it's nobody's there, but it's not locked up.
You're black.
Sometimes the internet doesn't work good. That's one of the downsides. Hence, I'm sitting on a car on a better connection there talking to you, because in the house I was hoping that it would work, but it didn't, so I didn't want to take the risk.
So do you sometimes stand in your house and notice things about where you live, your property, your home, that you hadn't noticed before because you're always on the run?
All the time. I just discovered my where I live, my home, because I never really had time to enjoy it. I'm enjoying it very much. I love it.
See, and I really believe we were forced into this. Instead of there can be more introspection, more appreciation. We can get to know the people we live with. In my case, I live alone and I'm used to it. So it's not hitting me as hard as probably others because I've always done this. But what would you say will be the overwhelming attitude of people around you that they've been forced into because of this pandemic?
Well, there's been a lot of divorces and issues.
I heard.
Because people, Yeah, because people just are not used to live with each other. They travel all the time, both. And the kids are suffering a lot, because especially the ones that have to be locked up into an apartment building, they are suffering. That's what I have been hurting most.
Yes, that's the sad part. And I think some of the divorces are happening because people don't know each other. Now they're getting to
Yeah.
know each other, and they're discovering they probably don't really like each other, although
There we go.
they've been in
Or they have changed and not even noticed.
right. But we all do,
Right.
we grow, and sometimes you grow apart, sometimes you grow together. So it's very sad. And I agree with you. It's sad for children who can't run around. Kids are used to running around to burn energy. So bless you that you have all the space and the animals, and it sounds like you're in paradise.
Yeah, we can't complain, thank God.
Yes. What are your plans as soon as life returns to normal? Are you going to continue to do business from home, or are you going to travel as much? I'm talking about your plans in terms of travel.
I don't think I'm going to travel as much at all. No, don't need to, really. I think it's more than proven that we don't need it. It's much more efficient this way.
Yes.
We have a lot more done.
Right.
Doing like this with
Do you know if any children have died of this virus in Brazil? Do you know of any children who've died?
Not close to me, no, thank God.
Oh, okay. No. Yeah, because
this friend of mine was 63 years old, so he's not a child.
Okay. Well, I'm so grateful that we got to do this, but I always offer my guests some time to address something I may not have asked them. Is there anything I didn't ask you that you would like to leave with people?
Well, no, I think you asked some most very interesting questions, Jennylyn. I really appreciate that. I want to just leave you with the message, and thank you for doing this, because you're bringing new life to people's homes. You're bringing, interesting subjects and talking to people and sharing people's opinions. And it's a very important service, especially in a moment like this. You mentioned you're doing this during the pandemic world. I just want to leave you with my thank you, my appreciation for what you're doing. It's very nice.
You're so sweet. I decided to do it because, like I said, I live alone and I didn't want to have to jump out the window.
Did something important and useful. Yeah.
Right? And I heard so many people complaining that mainstream media, the news is sensationalized for ratings. And so people are constantly in a dilemma as to if they can believe what they're hearing or not. And I thought, I produce television. I've been doing it for 10 years. So Zoom is so easy. Why don't I try it? And I was amazed at the reaction I got from people. And so now I've added you to my wonderful collection of wonderful people. And I'm hoping at the end of this to do a really great documentary.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I think so.
Broadcasting from Silicon Valley, California, this is Conversations with Jennylyn.